6 o'clock. Thank you. I'd like to call the special meeting for the public workshop of the San Mateo County Harbor District at 6 p.m. on June 10th, 2021. Roll call, please, Melanie.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Present.
Commissioner Ryring,
Present.
Commissioner Matoush,
Present.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Here.
Commissioner Zemke.
Present.
Great. We have a quorum and we will move on to public comment. This is for any member of the public to make a public comment on an item that is not on the regular agenda. I don't know if we have any. Melanie, can you check? I don't know why I can't access this.
I do not see anyone's hands raised.
Okay, so then we'll go to the discussion item, which is the commercial activity permit / potential fees for the off the boat sales. And before we get started, I just want to acknowledge, and Melanie, you probably should have received this. We received a public comment through email from Porter McHenry, and I'm not going to read the whole email, but essentially he is writing in support of the dock sales. So I would encourage anyone who is here who would like to make a public comment on this particular item to obviously do this verbally through through this meeting, or from this at this meeting, but also if you could just send your remarks to Melanie, our board clerk, that would be great as well. So Jim, I'm going to turn over the study with the public session on or the public workshop on this item. So if you'd like to start with your discussion or any staff report or presentation you'd like to make, that would be great.
Thank you, President Chancralli, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending and taking time out of your busy schedules to attend and provide us input. I'm going to go through a short presentation, kind of detailing why we're here and under what authority we're here and the recommended way forward from a staff perspective. Once I'm complete with that presentation, we're going to open it up to questions and comments. At that time, everybody will be free to make a comment. We're going to try to limit the comments to 3 minutes for the initial round to make sure we have time for everybody to speak. And then after everybody has a chance to speak, if you want to speak again, we'll provide you with that opportunity. So don't feel that we're limiting your input just to the 3 minutes. That's just the initial time. And we'll get back to you if you have additional things to say or recommend based on what you hear from others. So with that, I'll get started with the next slide. It is going to move. And this information here is, this issue was brought up to the board by staff back in January 18, 2017. It was issued, it was discussed and detailed by the board. 2 motions were made and they both failed. So the issue was tabled at that time. In February 7, 2021, I brought the issue back before the board again, and the board staff to host a public workshop to gather public input before they heard any further issue or comments on it or consideration on it at a future board meeting. So that's why we're here tonight, is because the board has directed us to do this, and I wanted to do this to get your input on any ideas on how to approach this issue.
Jim, can you ask
Yes.
people to mute their computers if they're not talking? There's all kinds of rattling going on from someone moving stuff.
We just did, I think. If you can, if you're not speaking, please mute so we don't get the background feed. I appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, much better. Next slide. So I wanted to start it out with the word. We all here to talk about user fees for the harbor, passenger service fees for the charter boats is already going on place. User fees for the tenant at the end of the pier, the fish buyers, is already in place. For the kayak company, for the restaurants, they're all there in place. One of the big attractions, as we all know, to the harbor, and I think it's fantastic, and we all support it 100% and want to see it grow, is the off the dock sales. And the off the dock sales bring tens of thousands of people to Pillar Point Harbor every year to buy some of the best seafood in the world, which is great. I do it myself, and I want to continue with that. But all those people put a burden on the harbor, its facilities, parking, its restroom, trash, the floating docks up and down, and maintenance issues. So what will the fees be used for if the board does decide to implement a user or passenger fee or a user fee on off the dock sales? The funds will be used for dock maintenance, utility maintenance and upgrades, maintenance, cleaning and of public serving facilities such as parking lots, restrooms, and trash collection, and safety improvements. And we've seen some of those lately with the leveling of the expansion joints on Johnson Pier, which eliminates tripping hazards. Throughout the entire harbor, we brought a grinder in and had all the concrete seams that were cracked and up uneven. Those were ground down even, so that now there's no tripping hazard. And we've also increased the signage about safety in the harbor itself to keep people off the breakwater and other things. So you're seeing it in action now, and we hope to continue that as the harbor grows and even more people come to Pillar Point Harbor. And this point is critical, is with the COVID-19 pandemic, I think the whole Bay Area has rediscovered the coast side. And we've all seen the traffic, and we've all seen the people come over and be astounded by the greatness that is the coast side. And I don't see any leveling off of that. I see it just increasing with the number of people in this region increasing. So that's what we'll use those fees for. And again, we already collect fees from certain portions of the harbor. And this is kind of an equity issue of leveling the playing field for everybody by proposing fees for off the boat sales. The San Mateo County Harbor District, a little history lesson. What are we? And I think it's important to point this out, that the Harbor District is an independent, multifunctional enterprise special district and a political subdivision of the state of California. As a multifunctional district, we provide them more than just one service. We provide several services at the harbor to the public. As an enterprise district, the district delivers services that are run like a business enterprise, charging for the services provided for dockage services and utilities and everything else that we provide, but also the public serving facilities that service the businesses that work there. So as an enterprise district, we charge for those services. Why do we charge for those services? We really don't have a choice. We're required by the state through the Harbor District State Code, or Harbor and Navigation Code, to charge for services. Specifically, the board shall, by ordinance, fix the rate of wharfage charges and other charges which are appropriate for the use of any of its facilities owned and constructed or services furnished by the district. The only discretionary part in there is, what is the district with public input determined to be an appropriate service to charge for beyond the wharfage. And service fees is one of those things that the district has already determined to be an appropriate charge, because we're already doing it for other enterprises. We simply just don't do it right now for off the boat sales. It's also required by the district's ordinances that the district shall establish rates and fees for the use of its facilities again. And the facilities is just not the mooring of your vessel. It's the use of the dock. It's the use of the dock and the facilities by your customers. It's all of that. But so the district shall establish those rates per our ordinances and per the state code, as I just went over. In addition to that, if you're going to be conducting business in Pillar Point Harbor to sell or solicit anything for sale of merchandise within the harbor or the boundaries of the district, you have to obtain a permit. We call those permits the commercial activity permits. And then there's the ordinance also provides that vessels within the harbor shall obtain the permit, except for commercial fishing vessels. The payment of berthing fees to the district and appropriate fishing permit fees satisfy that requirement. But the ordinance specifically calls out excluding any wholesale buying or retail selling of fish on the premises. So even if you are a commercial fishing vessel, you still have to get a commercial activity permit to commercially sell or retail sell off the dock. And we enforce that right now. We enforce that through a limited commercial activity permit. And in the staff report, I explained why a limited commercial activity permit, in my opinion, is not the appropriate tool, because the limited permit is for a limited duration or a limited activity. And a lot of our fishing boats that are year round have that permit. It's an annual permit. It's not a limited time permit. So the appropriate permit we should use is the commercial activity permit. Going on to the current fees, I've received a lot of questions over the last couple of weeks about what others pay. The lessees of the fish buyers at the end of the pier, they pay 2.5% of their gross sales for off the dock sales to the public, to non-commercial buyers or the public coming in. The same people who buy from your boats for off the dock sales, they pay 2.5%. Passenger vessels, your charter vessels pay a passenger service fee of $2.41 per passenger. On average, that comes to, depending on the number of your passengers, but around $5,000 a year at $2.41 a passenger. It's about 1.6 based on a ticket price of $150. The percentage goes up and down depending on your ticket price. The Humboldt Bay Kayak Company, with their traffic, they pay 3% of their gross sales. And then the restaurants pay 3 to 5% of their gross sales. So all others in the harbor are paying a percentage to handle the facilities and maintain the facilities. Go there. The current proposal that the staff is recommending to the board is a full commercial activity permit, which implements a 2.5% of gross sales for that customer service fee. And that can change. That's not set in stone. Again, it's all a recommendation. Based on input I received while walking the docks and talking with several people, I already know that significant edits are going to be required on the draft document that's provided online. Really, it needs to be simplified greatly while still maintaining all the required information. And that's what we'll do and I waited to this meeting to do that simplification because I wanted to hear input from the public before I take any further cuts. The current limited cap requires, they require that all fish sold under the proposal, and this goes, how do you track the sale of fish for the 2.5%? Everybody who sells fish off the boat right now, all fish sold under the proposal shall be recorded in the Department of Fish and Game receipt, shall be sold by a duly licensed and permitted fisher person. So all the boats who sell fish in the harbor are already required by Fish and Game to fill out the Fish and Game receipt book or landing permits. And those can simply be turned into the harbor master, and the harbor master can then calculate the 2.5%. This can be used as the base, that Fish and Game receipts can be used to base the customer service fee on. And it's no additional work for the fishermen besides dropping it off at the harbor master's office once a quarter. So that's kind of where we're at now. The proposal with the cap, and really it's strictly, this meeting is really strictly to off the boat sales to the public and not the wholesale sale of fish. That's another issue that we have to discuss. This is just the commercial sale of fish to the public through off the dock sales on the floating docks, and how we propose to institute that user fee to, one, equal it out among all commercial businesses in the harbor, and two, bring it in compliance with the code and our ordinances to ensure that we have the proper funding to maintain our facilities for you and your customers. With that, I would like to open it up to our questions and comments. And again, Melanie's going to run this for us. We'll go through with 3 minutes time limits on each person, and we'll go through as many times as we need until 8 o'clock tonight to get all the input that we can to affect this and provide to the board at a future meeting. Once all the input is taken, staff will then, I'll work with staff, we'll redraft the proposal for full board consideration, and no decisions will be made tonight. That decision, any decision will be made by the full board at a board meeting in a future date. With that, Melanie, if you can unlock or unmute or call on people.
So please raise your hand if you would like to speak.
Captain Smith had his hand up at one point.
Yeah, he did. Try to find him.
There he goes. His hand's up.
Okay. And he should be able to speak now. Let me get the timer going.
Good afternoon, Harbor Commissioners and everybody here. I'm Captain Smitty of the vessel Riptide. There's a couple issues here that I wanted to go over, and I'm sorry I did not get a chance to address the questions in general at the beginning of the meeting. I have a question about that, and I'll try and address that later. Right now, I'm the commercial passenger vessel ticket fees that we have been paying, the $241 per passenger. There's a ratio with different prices that we pay. As an example, tomorrow I have a whale watching trip for 6 people, but that's only at $65 per person. So this actually represents a 5.35% on the whale watching trips. There's many different discrepancies in this, in that, you know, we were the first group that had these commercial activity permits, and our passenger harbor ticket fees were started. And I'm not going to reiterate all the information that I put out in the previous meeting, but our fees were paid because we represented better than 90% of the wear and tear on the docks. That has changed. We are now less than 5%. So these fees that are being proposed now are on the basically on the off-boat sales. And now my question to that is, how are you going to ensure that you collect your 2.5% sales off these cash sales on the boat? As we all know, cash is a very liquid environment and very difficult to track. Yes, there's the fish and game logs, but those also are very nebulous. My concern is that whatever is done here, that it ends up representing that there be an equity amongst all users of the facility, because we have been paying a tariff for this for so long. We feel that we are actually burdened with a higher percentage of these fees than anybody else in the harbor. And as I said, this actually ends up being a burden on us on a season that, again, we're looking at, you know, a catastrophe based on 2020 and moving into 2021. I had hoped that there would be more customers, clientele coming to our boats for fishing, but we have not realized that. So far this year, we are looking at yet another difficult year financially. So we would ask that whatever happens here, that there's equity amongst all of us. And I see my time is up. My one comment regards the general comment for at the beginning of the meeting, which I missed. I had my hand up and nobody saw it. In that regards, what I would like to see continue once we move past the COVID and the harbor commissioners start meeting again, that there be a public access forum in this format for the public to respond to. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to work. It's very difficult for me to make 7 or 8 o'clock meetings when I go to bed at 7 or 8 o'clock because I have to get up at 3 o'clock the following morning. So I'd ask that the harbor consider in going forward that this would be considered, would consider a public aspect of this forum in this format. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain.
I actually do not see anybody's hands raised at the moment. If you do not know how to raise your hand in Zoom, please just speak up. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me? My name's Don Marshall.
Yes, we can hear you.
So I'm a commercial fisherman in the harbor. I had a quick question about the commercial activities permit versus the retail sales permit. There's a little confusion. It's not the same thing, is it? Is it?
No, it is not.
The commercial activity permit that we are now required to have is more expensive than the previous retail sales permit. Is that correct?
So right now, for commercial fishermen who elect to sell off the boat directly to the public, have a limited commercial activity permit. We're changing that over to a full commercial activity permit. All the same requirements are going to be there, plus a few more. And tonight is what we're discussing is the price. The price right now for the permit itself hasn't changed. We're discussing about the customer user fee and the proposal of 2.5% gross sales of all your off the dock sales.
Yeah, no, I understood that part of it. I just thought that maybe I missed it, or I'm incorrect, but I thought that the fee had already gone up at some point this year and that this was additional, but maybe I'm correct about that. I was just trying to verify.
There is the fees going up for commercial activity permits was recommended at the last board meeting by 5%, but the board has asked us to delay that and get them more information. It's being proposed to the board at the next board meeting next week, but that's separate from the user fee, which is we're recommending as a percentage base.
Right. No, that makes sense. Okay, thank you for your clarification. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Captain.
So Jim, I'm going to butt in here and remind everyone that public comment is opened right now on this topic. So if you would like to make a public comment or ask a question of the general manager, this is your time to do so, and please raise your hand. We're taking public comment now. I see a Jake Bunch.
I see you, Dad. We'll call on you.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Jim, thanks for your time. Has the board explored other options in terms of generating revenue from the dock sales market, alternative to a percentage-based income?
We have considered just consider the percentage base, and I know some people have asked for a different way of doing that, and I encourage them to bring up those ideas at tonight's meeting and also submit them in writing.
Okay. Well, my suggestion would be to moderately increase the commercial activity permit cost, and even taking that a step further, perhaps even make that a two-stage permit whereby the permanent berth holders in Pillar Point are charged X amount, and transient boats that come and go and do off the boat sales may be charged potentially a higher amount, sort of just to encourage the fishers that are permanently stationed in Half Moon Bay and who are providing, you know, constant berth fees and revenue for the harbor.
Received. I understand what you're saying. Dan, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, you hear me okay, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, well, first I just want to thank everybody involved with giving us a chance to put some input in here real quick. I've been able to utilize the dock sales option on and off for the last 8 years in Half Moon Bay. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing that's provided there. I just want to kind of reinforce what Jake was saying. I was talking to Chris there on the pier the other day, and you know, it sounded like maybe it would be an option to look at, like Jake said, possibly an increase in the commercial activities fee. I know it doesn't sound like much more paperwork when we start thinking about the 2.5% thing, but you know, with what the state's requiring for us, with every handwritten name on the receipt, you know, given to every customer, it is another paperwork chime in the back of our mind that we're not going to want to you know, make a mistake on or whatever. So if there's a way to do that on a flat fee, I had a lot of people that I talked to on my dock, on D dock and on F dock, that were in favor of that program. So I just wanted to get that out there. And then maybe I looked at what the fees would be used for. I thought maybe if there's a chance, you know, the bathrooms are looking great, everything's looking great around there, but there was a chance for maybe a little more signage. If it's going to bring more people, and you seem to be of the mentality that we're going to be on an influx of more people in the future, it would be great if we could maybe use some of this money to help build that, either through, you know, some of the things that are already in play, like the fish line app or things of that nature, to try to get, you know, the sales flowing as good as we can out of there, and then everybody's making more money. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Robert,
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Great. I'm new to this. I got in early, or I'm sorry, I wasn't on time to meeting. I was late. I missed the early part of it. Is there going to be a further discussion on the insurance requirements, or is that part of this discussion?
That's going to be that's part of this discussion, but it's also part of the simplification that I know that we're going to have to change that up a little bit.
Okay. I read that briefly, and, you know, I'm no insurance expert by any means and stuff, but it looks like the policies would have to name the harbor district as the payee for things. And I don't know other people's situations with insurance. I've got one of my boats in the insurance pool, and I really doubt they're going to go for that. So do you have any recommendations of where we'd even inquire about obtaining such insurance and what the approximate costs are?
I don't, but let me work on the insurance a little bit more for that requirement, and then I'll reach out to you.
Okay, thank you. That was my question, more just a clarification.
All
If
right.
I could add for clarification, and additionally insured for the charter boats costs us nothing. You simply tell your insurance agents, they put it on there, and it doesn't change your rates or anything else at all.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Robert. Captain Barry Day, how are you, sir?
Good, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay, yeah, excuse me, I'm a little late. I did check with my insurance company. Yeah, pretty much there a fee there. But there is a but there. Just remembering back when I first started sales in the harbor there, I had a boat. I didn't have insurance. I wasn't bringing much fish in, but it got me started. And we really need to consider young people in the industry that want to get started, and the harbor off the dock's an ideal place for them to get a go at it. So if we could also look at probably an umbrella insurance there, and, you know, just to cover young guys that want to get started in the harbor. that point there, the insurance. The next point was the actual cost. I'm sort of heading Jake's way there, because if we're working off profit, taking profit, if I sell my fish for a bit more or a bit less and someone else is doing that, it's a bit of a circle, and you're coming down on the boat, seeing it's seeming a messy process there. Do I take my bags off? If a check bounces, how are we going to work that? Fishing and just petering it down a bit more, we have to pay 5% on salmon, all right, which at your suggestion, we end up at 7.5%. That's a lot of damn money coming out. Sure, we have a good little run, but there's a lot of bad runs in this, and that's pretty high. And even with fish and game on the 5%, we've got to round it off and add more for the guts and gill that we throw overboard. So even that in itself, I'm sort of more inclined for a up in the fees, as Jake put forward there. That's my comment to kick off with.
All right, thanks, Barry. I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, I believe Jake is next.
Well,
Yeah,
Jake-
you guys got me here.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah,
hear you.
Just one more point. One more point, Jim, I didn't get to there last time, is that I noticed in your summary, which was great, you mentioned it could be very simple for the off the boat sales guys to submit their tallies for, I don't know if it's poundage or revenue, and then the harbor staff, assumingly, would then generate a bill, for the berth holder. That sounds fine. However, what the rubber meets the road is you're going to be inundated, or your staff rather is going to be inundated with disorganized receipts and falsified doc. I mean, I'm not trying to badmouth fishermen here, but it's paperwork wise, I think you're looking at a nightmare for your staff in terms of trying to figure out who owes what and chasing down out of state boats that come here to sell for a month or a 2 month, whatever it might be. I think the cleaner, easier version of this is to find a balance where that annual permit meets the harbor's needs and is affordable to the fishermen. And I'll leave it there.
Sorry, I was taking notes. Any more comments or?
I don't see
Concern-
anybody's hand raised.
That was,
I do actually see, oops.
Can I speak?
See, sure. Phone number starting in 408. I don't see
So
that.
I'll
person.
chime in here, Melanie. So whoever
Yeah.
whose phone number ends in 9711, your hand is up, and this is the time for you to speak if you'd like to do so.
how do you unmute yourself on the phone there, Melanie?
I will send him a request.
On a
He
phone,
should be able to hit
sick.
it, and then he can unmute himself.
Tom, it's *6, isn't there *9?
Can you hear me now?
Yep, there he
Yes.
goes.
Yes. Up, there we
So
are.
you got to hit *6, unmute yourself. Okay, so this is Todd. So points well taken from Jake's points, Dano's points, Robert's points, Barry's points, that And as we talked the other day, Jim, and as a matter of fact, to really emphasize Jake's last point, the potential burden of paperwork is the net of what you think proceeds you might have after you take out all the administrative services for your personnel to track this stuff could be, quite burdensome, as Jake pointed out. And I really believe that having as a first step to have a higher fee is fine. And maybe another way to think about that fee is maybe you have it, bracketed by ranges. People make an estimate of, what their revenue is on an annual basis and they pay that. So if, let's say somebody has got, trying to think of somebody with, a small boat that maybe is going to generate, $30,000 of crab revenue estimate, whatever, maybe they pay one fee, but somebody that's doing salmon, black cod, crab, and has a, much higher, maybe more 100K plus, maybe they pay a little bit higher fee. I mean, I think that would be equitable. But I think getting into a, more flat fee scenario would be far better, simpler.
Yeah, the bracketed fee idea that has its merit. That's a good idea.
William McHenry has his hands raised.
Yes, you hear me?
Yep,
Loud
we
and
can hear
clear.
you.
All right, good evening, everybody. Yeah, I've got a unloading lease with you guys and also a couple boats. So I've done dock sales over the years on and off, and just share a couple comments and concerns I have. Overall, I think the dock sale program is great. It's started, almost 20 some years ago. I don't know the exact date, almost before I started. And there would just be a trickle in the beginning weekends. Now it's unbelievable. It's actually amazing how many people come down to Pillar Point just for these dock sales. It's awesome. But that also leads to, more work for the district and some other problems that you guys have to consider. Another major concern I have is, some of these sales have become almost like a retail business. This is a program that was designed for fishermen to go fishing, come in, sell their fish to the public. I believe that way. You go out, you come in, you can choose either to go to the wholesalers, if you like the price and want to go back out, or take your time and sell to the public. That's every fisherman's own choice, depending on their business plan. And it's great that Pillar Point's able to offer that. There's quite a few ports that is not even an option for fishermen. And I think that speaks highly of our harbor here. That's my main concern. It needs to be, somewhat equitable with the fees you charge. I don't have an exact answer on percentage or flat rate. That's a tough one. You guys. Overall, I think it's a great program. I think it's just a few little adjustments that work for the fishermen and for the district. And, everybody involved with the harbor, we keep the program going. Thank you.
Thanks, Porter.
I believe Barry Day is next.
And Dan wants to make another comment after Barry. Barry, you there? #6.
Yeah. Okay, you got me now?
I got you.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking a couple of points there. From what I'm picking up, I missed the start. You're sort of not against dock sales, etc. there. One thing that's happening now, which we probably got to look at, and perhaps Porter, this could be something for the NDOC, is Princeton Seafood stopped filleting fish. That's quite a biggie for the public. And I can understand why, because they're getting big lines, you know, for a salmon, etc. there. That's probably something we should look at is how we can get them filleted. I can run through ideas where in Oregon, it's open there where there's a filleting station, or they actually set them up off the boat and the deckhand can make extra money. There's lots of ideas that can go there, or perhaps the suppliers might want to look at that if they like. There's that one there. With just be careful with the scaling, because I haven't got a problem with it, but if we do get a bad season where I've estimated something and it doesn't happen, which is fishing, then I'm paying my fishing game fees and your fees and twiddling my thumbs on something that hasn't happened. So in doing that, we just make the estimation variable to be conducive with fishing, which is very variable. They're just the 2 points I wanted to make there. Okay.
Thanks, Barry. The fillet station's an interesting one. I'll look into that.
Yeah, thanks.
And
Dan.
was that the phone number starting in 408?
No, Dan's down from
Okay.
the fishing booth.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
You got me, Jim?
We got you.
Yep.
All right. Okay. I just a couple other points I wanted to make is I want to just remind everybody, like Captain William was talking about, they're coming off a disaster year in the charter sector. All of this is great so long as we can keep fishing available, both commercial, sport, and charter. All those sectors are dependent on us even going fishing, and this revenue is dependent on us going fishing. And, the state, they did some pretty big sweeps last winter with Fish and Game and enforcement. And I just want you to know that, we really worked hard to bring everybody up to speed through the association, even non-association members. There were those of us that really tried to get the word out, talk about what the state wants us to do. Everybody wanted to be above board, and we want to continue that. So whichever way this goes, and that's why I keep coming back to the flat fee, because if we're left to police ourselves, which sometimes we are as fishermen, we have to go and talk to our fellow fishermen at times and say, hey man, listen, you can't be selling fish without a mask, because, just stuff like that, because you guys don't have the time or the manpower to send somebody down to every boat to make sure everybody's doing it. So that's what we tried. There were those of us that tried, and we're still willing to try moving forward. But, my hope is that, at the bottom of all this, we're all coming out of a pandemic. We're all, hanging on by the skin of our chin, just waiting for brighter days. But all that said, it's like, some of us, we still got a ways to go before we're healthy, right? So I just think in the back of our mind, that's something that needs to be kept in mind too, because everybody's financial situation in fishing is different. And there are some people that are still really hurting. So I'd like to see everybody survive this thing and everybody come out smelling like roses a few years down the road if we can keep this thing open.
I agree with you.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Jim.
Frank Souza.
Yeah, you got me here, Jim.
Loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to, say I pretty much agree with what everybody's saying, and Porter's concerns are kind of the same concerns as mine, is how this whole thing, for just to keep running and for it to keep being successful, it needs to be, tailored to the fishermen of Half Moon Bay. And I also feel like that the stakeholders of this harbor who have yearly commitments to their slip rents should take a little bit of precedence over out of town boats. And I know during this last crab season, there was some guys who, have been here for years trying to get a spot at the sales dock, and they were not able to because an out of town boat that came down here and wanted to sell his thing with his 1 month of slip rent. And I think that we should look into that as well. And, you know, to keep the tradition of this thing being from boats that catch the product and deliver the product to Half Moon Bay, and not be any type of trying to create a different type of business than owner caught and owner, you know, salesman. So thank you.
Understood. Thanks. 9711. I think that was Todd, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
So
Todd.
yeah, one other thing, I mean, we're talking about basically everybody's individual fishing enterprise. We're all paying slip rent there and trying to make ends meet with our own little business models. So another way that the harbor could potentially make a little bit more money would provide some other flexibility for some of us, other people who aren't members of the association. And from time to time when there's some chafing, like this last season where some of us are actually restricted from using any of the hoists, it'd be great if we had some flexibility to pay fees to the harbor and have another public hoist maybe that had a little bit more features than the one over the shallow one, maybe a deep water hoist that, you know, we could use and independently sell to, you know, other wholesalers when we are restricted from using any of the other 3 hoists at the end of the pier. So something like that is another way that we can generate some additional revenue for the harbor and provide additional flexibility to some of us independent fishermen.
All right. I don't see any other hands raised, and we've gone around the horn 3 different times. So at this time, I'd like to turn it back to President Shane Corrali.
Yep, thank you so much, Jim.
I'm on a cell phone. Can anybody hear me?
Oh, yes, yes. So you're on right now, so if you'd like to make your comment, this is the time. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Paul Tosti, and I found myself in a situation where I was forced to sell off the dock this year, and I was refused service by the wholesalers, all 3 of them at the end of the pier. If I'm going to pay a 2.5% tax, Winchester Bay offers bait. The Harbor District has a freezer. They have a selection of bait. How do we go about conducting business if we strictly want to use the facility and we can't gain access to anything there? If this money, a lot of us, you gross $100,000, we all know what that is. But if you gross $500,000, there should be some infrastructure there to give us an incentive to keep us there doing that. And I'd just like to put that in. That's my 2 cents. And I hope the money actually, because you're talking about a tremendous amount of revenue coming to the harbor like the harbor's never seen before. Maybe for some of these locals, you gross $100,000 and pay $2,500 that month. Maybe after you exceed your moorage by double, triple, or quadruple, you get a free month of moorage, and it gives an incentive to some of the locals. But it is a tremendous amount of money at 2.5% to not have some concrete infrastructure plans as to where it's going to go. And that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. So last call for anyone who would like to make a comment to please raise your hand. So I'm going to close public comment for now and have the commissioners kind of give their comments to the general manager based on some of the comments made tonight. And I'd be happy to open up public comment afterwards before we adjourn. So I know that Commissioner Matoush, you were about to make a comment, or you started making a comment regarding the insurance piece. I don't know if you'd like to talk to Jim about your thoughts, but just please remember that we're interacting with the general manager as well based on the public comments that we have heard. And I don't mean to pick on you, Commissioner Matoush. So if there's anyone else who would rather start, let me know.
I
But you
was
just,
just trying to elucidate on the insurance, and I don't know if it's going to be different for commercial fishermen or not. But I've got about 10 different additionally insureds, and it costs me nothing. It's whatever harbor I check into, they usually want an additionally insured. You just call up your agent, they add it on. The harbor gets to see everybody that's on my additionally insured list. I was very surprised about the comments about not being able to get the fish filleted. Just for a little history and background, a prior leaseholder banned the party boat deckhands from using the fillet stations because he believed it was competition to his business. So if they used to fillet, I don't know if we can talk to the leaseholder and have get a little more clarity on that. Filleting on the boats or in the harbor. I know I've put on some various events, different areas. We had to get the health department involved for a American Legion event we did. They had very specific water, bleach, soap requirements. So I don't know if any of that will come in. I'll tell you now, the deckhands on the charter boats do fillet on the boat, and it is some very well valued income for those deckhands. So I think that it'd be nice for the commercial fleet to find out how to make the jump from having a whole fish to a filleted fish, because a lot of times people don't know what to do with a whole fish when you get it home on many occasions. If anything else comes up, I'll pop back in, but right now I'm going back silent.
okay. So Commissioner Zinke, any comments?
Yeah, this has been a very interesting, as a newcomer to the board. I've been really impressed with the amount of feedback here, and all very good comments. Struck a little bit by the complexity of how to do this. I do want to at least be sensitive to the fact that I'd like, whatever we do, I want to make sure that we do it in the most efficient way possible and minimize the amount of paperwork. And some of the comments that were made, I think, are kind of relevant to that. So, but great comments. Love hearing them. And that's about all I have to say right now.
Commissioner Lorenz, I'm just going across the screen, so there's no real order. Commissioner Lorenz, would you like to add your comments?
Sure. I have a few things to say about this. First of all, I'd like to thank the staff and the board president for having the meeting at this time to allow folks to attend that are working. It's great to see everyone. And to all the people that are here, thank you very much for taking the time to provide us with your comments. It's very helpful for a complicated issue like this to hear what you guys all are thinking and how it impacts you. So I appreciate it very much. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ryering?
Yeah, I do want to thank everyone tonight who showed up and took the time to speak and tell us your ideas and your concerns. And of course, Jim, thank you so much for all the work in the background that you've done working on this issue ahead of time. I do have a couple of questions when we get into discussion.
We're in discussion right now.
Okay.
I can come back to you if you'd like.
Yeah, come back.
Okay. So I just want to say thank you to the staff and to Jim. This is not an easy thing to be talking about, especially as we're going through our recovery on the coast and in the county in general. But I do think that it's important that we have the discussion. So I am very happy that member, the public is here to give their input on something that might affect or might not affect them. So I just want to remind everyone, we are not actually taking a vote tonight. This is a public workshop. So again, as we're listening and moving forward with the time tonight and moving forward with the agenda, that we can still, have this conversation. So Jim, with regard to the comment about efficiency, I guess I'm actually classifying it as that, in terms of more paperwork or whatever we might need to do. What kind of thoughts, and you may not have thought about any of this yet in terms of work and staff work, have you given any thought to this, I guess, in terms of being able to enforce a lot of this? Enforcement, I think, is a pretty big deal. And you mentioned it in your report, but for those who have not read the report, maybe you can touch on enforcement.
Sure thing, President Corrali. Right now, all the fishermen are required to keep those logs, and we can just get a copy of those logs. We expect to get mismatch receipts and coffee spilled on the paperwork being submitted, but that does have some merit. In discussion with some of the fishermen on the waterfront, the bigger issue for me is making sure we get the correct logs, that they're correctly filled out and submitted on time, which may be on the scope or the abilities of some fishermen because they're doing too much at one time and trying to keep up with things. So the single fee does have significant credit to it, that it might be a great idea. Also, the tiered response for different boats for different seasons, crab season versus salmon season versus black cod season. That's also an interesting approach due to different levels of permitting based on that, or how many seasons you participate in versus a total annual permit. If you're just doing one season, a limited permit, maybe you're the tool that you use. But if you're doing all year, you want a commercial activity permit. So much more complex decision tree on which kind of permits you would use based on what you're doing that year. And it can change from year to year. If you're having a great year and your participation in all the fisheries, then you get all the permits and it costs more. But if only you're only participating in one fishery, you pay less. I think that's a very attractive method for the fisheries, and also kind of balances out those that are doing well and those that are not doing well. So I'll have to take a closer look at that. I'll work with staff and see if we can come up with a plan on that. And then also walk the dock and talk with some of the fishermen as we develop it to get their input right up front as we go work it. Because really we have an obligation to collect the fees to maintain the piers and maintain our facilities. But if it doesn't make sense, it's not going to work. So I definitely agree with all the fishermen who have said that. So agree with that. Just one more comment is Don has had his hand raised on Don's iPhone, and I believe he wants to speak.
Right. So hold on for 1 second, Dawn. I'm sorry. I've kind of temporarily closed public comment, but I'm going to open it up. I just wanted to give the commissioners a chance to, kind of chime in here. I don't know if anyone else, if any of the commissioners have any comment. I'm going to open it up back up to public comment so that we can get more input, if that's okay with the rest of the
Commissioner Matoush had his hand raised.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Matoush, I didn't see you. Sorry. Would you like to make a comment to the rest of the commission and the general manager?
Yes, I'm still kind of hung up on this belaying. The more I think about it, the more it grates on me. I don't like walking off my own boat with whole fish. And I believe that somehow for the commercial fishermen, an option should be developed. But then it dawned on me that one of our leaseholders has no problem filleting his own fish. And it was surprising tonight to learn that he doesn't want to fillet members of the public fish. If you've ever watched a deckhand on a charter boat work, and I'm sure the commercial fishermen would be the same, it takes very little time to fillet and clean a fish. So I just wanted to make sure that we look into that, why they can fillet their own and they can't fillet the public's.
So I'm going to chime in on that too, Commissioner Matoush, and actually Jim, because I am not familiar with this business, but I am familiar with, being a consumer and wanting, if I buy a whole fish, I wouldn't even know how to fillet a fish. I mean, it sounds awful, but I almost think that's a great service to have. So I don't know.
Commissioner Crawley, I already made a note that I'll look into the fillet because we've had company come in and buy off the boats and want to take their salmon home fillet, but that's an option right now. So I also personally feel that pain. I will follow up on that. This is kind of off topic from the agenda, so we have to recommend.
Right. Okay.
Agenda.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so thank you for looking into that. So let me open it up I'll close the commissioner comments for now and open it up to public comment again so that we have more of an interaction. So, and then the commissioners can come back on and, chime in some more and we'll have a more robust discussion if needed and, take in the public comments from this round. So, Donald's iPhone, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I was in favor of the flat fee. I wanted to be clear that I agree with the others that I'm in favor of a flat fee. I think that doing the paperwork is a nightmare, not just for the harbor and for the county, but I think it's also a nightmare for the fishermen who have also been asked to do, as Dano put, so eloquently, extra receipts already to each customer, quarterly landing taxes, yearly fees for permits on top of what we pay with the harbor. More paperwork is just a lot more for us, and it's already a very difficult job. I'd also just like to bring up that the dock sales has always been something that I find a little sacred. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times you do generate a little bit more income, but it comes with a significant amount of interaction with the public, bags, signage, interaction with people on social media. It's another business. So just be clear that the people that do that are putting out not double the effort, they're putting out exponential effort. When the other people go home to their families, sometimes we grind it out. Sometimes we go out in bad weather on Friday because we know that the people are going to be there on Saturday. And I want to have the harbor commissioners understand that the guys are really putting in that extra effort to be able to do that. And so when you're putting these fees on us and trying to weigh that against keeping the county up and keeping the facilities going, I just want to make sure that there's a good balance and you guys understand the effort share there. So that it isn't taken for granted. Not that I would say that it is, but I just want to be clear that it's quite a bit of effort to sell. So keep that in mind going forward. And I appreciate your guys' willingness to work with us and you giving me the time to make a public comment fairly. Thank you for that. And that's all.
Thank you. William Smith.
Again, good evening, everybody here. In the interest of equity for the CPV vessel passenger ticket fees, I believe they should be suspended until there's an equity across the board. Even retroactively cancel the fees back to January. This is a tariff that we pay that nobody else does, and there is a gross inequity in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Marino.
Hi, my name's actually Brandon Jenkins.
Sorry, Brandon.
It's okay. So, I didn't really catch the beginning part of the meeting. I kind of came in late, but I hear this tier system seems like what Jim was saying. I typically sell off the dock just during what's called an open access season. And it's usually like lingcod and halibut. And some years you're only fishing June, July, and August. And you're really not making that much income weekly. And you're fishing a smaller boat, so you don't have as much overhead, but to be paying what seems like the other guys are paying, the tier system seems like it would be good, or the flat rate. I just really don't see that adding that 2% on top of like the fees is really a feasible situation for the smaller guys when there really isn't a lot of room for that much overhead. And then, so that's my input on those two. And then as far as keeping track, it's already all logged in by Fish and Game. We already all log and land all our fish when we do a dock sales. So couldn't you guys access the Fish and Game logs to keep track of that, or no? And then also one more thing is, in Oregon, you are allowed to cut a fish. So say some of the fishermen probably done Newport, Oregon, or tuna season, $5 to fillet your tuna up there. No dock sale, no nothing needed. You just cut it right off your boat. So I don't know if we need to see how they do it up there or something like that, but that's pretty much all I got to say. Thanks you guys for letting me comment, and I really appreciate everybody's work here.
Thanks, Brandon. Captain Smith has his hand raised again, or is that from?
Yeah, I just saw that. William Smith, would you like to comment again, or is your?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, in regards to the filleting, the Fish and Game regulation in regards to that is that once the fish have been officially landed for the CPVs, so we are able to fillet the fish once we are tied to the dock. That is considered to be an official landing. One warden made us take the fish off the boat and then bring it back onto the boat for filleting. But the definition by Fish and Wildlife, excuse me, is that the fish has to be officially landed to be filleted.
Okay. Any other public comment? I don't see any other hands raised, so I'm going to again kind of pause public comment and open this up to commissioner comments and discussion.
I'm listening to my.
Probably Larry Day had his hand raised, and
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Okay, Larry, I'll keep it up. And Larry,
Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
sorry
just
about that.
no, that's okay. Just a quick follow up with William there. He is correct, because you're obviously going to look into this more, and I'll probably discuss it with you. What they do in Oregon is once the fish is sold and it's a customer's fish, it's out of their hands. So a lot of the deckhands have a table set up there and they just cut them because it's a customer's fish then. So that's generally how it works in Oregon. But I'd probably discuss it more with a fillet station, because you wouldn't want boards all over the with people walking around, and fish should be pretty messy. And where do the carcasses go? There's probably more discussion needed with that.
By DEC to do that.
I just wanted to make that point. I'll chat with you on it, Jim, at the dock.
I'll see you there. Thanks, Barry. Todd?
Yeah.
Todd, did you want to speak, or is your hand up from before?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Okay. Yeah, just a couple follow-on points to what Brandon had mentioned, that you can't use, I mean, if somebody's doing a mixed bag of retail and wholesale, and there may be some people that are, doing retail. I mean, there have been some fishermen that have, played around with farmers markets and stuff like that, which is still going to require, a fish ticket. You could have somebody with a mixed bag of wholesale, multi-level retail. So just using fish tickets might really not work that well. And then with regard, just a couple points on that, the filleting, I got a lot of experience in doing that, because every year I'm up in Alaska, I go through an inspection, and they have some real regimented, I mean, they go through an FDA inspection handled by the state, and we need a covered workspace, the bleach rinse, the hand dips and stuff like that. So they're definitely from a there's two dimensions of that. One is the fish and game rules that it has to be landed. And then second is the, handling of fish with a covered workspace, except with bleach and all that stuff. Then when you go up to Oregon, a lot of those guys are actually adhering to a lot of those protocols as well. So anyway, just make that point. That's it.
Okay. Any other hands raised? Cal, pause public comment and go back to commissioner discussion and comments. Commissioner Lorenas, do you have anything to add? I wasn't sure if you wanted to kind of continue on from your last comment. Not trying to put you on the spot, Ed. Sorry.
No, I was muted, so I was sitting there talking to no one. No, I think the discussion's really good. We will follow up with a meeting, a regular meeting where this goes on the agenda for voting. And I would also add that if people want, they can still offer comments and letters to the board and staff to follow up with that meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Lorenas. Commissioner Raring? You're on mute.
Thank you. So, Jim, before our next meeting, when we'll be looking at, I assume we're going to be looking at different ways to structure these fees, and there have been several ideas proposed tonight. Tier system, flat rate. There was something mentioned about bracket method, I think, that
Right.
I'm not clear on what that is. Will we, I think, for me at least, maybe for Bill too, some of this, the first pass we've had at looking at these kind of fee structures. And will staff be doing an evaluation then of the different ways that these revenues might flow to the district and make a recommendation?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Commissioner Mateusz?
I was glad to hear everything that everybody had to say. There's been a lot of good points raised. And I look forward to seeing how staff brings this forward to us.
Commissioner Zimke?
Unmute myself. Yeah, thanks to all of the great input that we've gotten, and thanks to Jim and the staff for tackling this complex issue. And I have no other comments to make.
Okay, I just have a comment. So Jim, as we've been, and to the rest of the commission and to the public as well, when we look at these fees, and not just these other fees as well, we're trying to balance the best that we can, the public's interest versus the private enterprise interest. And my understanding from is that maybe our budget, I think we've done a great job in trying to get the budget out in a way that is readable to as many to people. But I think that sometimes people forget that we've got two sides, two parts to our budget. One is the enterprise side and one is the non-enterprise side, which is the public side. That's the things that are paid for by tax funds. So this part would mainly go towards the enterprise side for the businesses that are being conducted or the business transactions happening in the Harbor District. So Jim, I know that you're trying to balance all of those needs that we have to balance in terms of making sure that the public isn't, really subsidizing private for-profit businesses, with the fact that, we're also mindful that, a lot of the tenants here are very important to the Harbor District, but also important to the coast side economy. So I'm hoping that the public understands that the balancing act here is not even, with individual businesses in the harbor district, but actually the public's. This is a public property. This is a public facility. And what we need to do to maintain it for the benefit of the public, who includes it includes our tenants as well. But I think that if you're conducting business, we need to balance, how we become a profit center for private businesses with the public need. So Jim, I think you're doing a great job on this with Julie as well, but I just kind of wanted to make it clear that that's the balancing act that the commission and the district and staff are looking at. So, I mean, wouldn't you think that's a fair comment to make?
It's definitely a balance that we're looking at and considering, and that my philosophy is that the district is here to support the people who use the harbor, and that we can do whatever we can to support them, but we also have an obligation to our taxpayers to maintain our facilities and maintain a safe harbor, which you have to balance those two things together. So that's what I hope I'm doing, and I'm definitely taking that into consideration as I prepare my recommendations with staff to forward this issue up to the board. One other comment I want to say before we close out. I agree with President Corrali and then with Commissioner Lorenas. Written comments, I really do appreciate written comments. So if you have the time to write down your thoughts and send them to Melanie Hayden or myself, I would love to read them and see them and make them part of the record. So I encourage anybody who's willing to put their comments down in writing and forward them to me. And with that, that's all I have for this evening.
Hey, then I've closed public comment. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
that.
Okay. Can we do a roll call, please, for the adjournment?
Commissioner Chang Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenas,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned at 7:17. Thank you to all who were here tonight to participate. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks a lot.